Dying Light 2 is one of the most beautiful, unforgettable, and fun open world games I've ever played. It's also an absolute mess. Part of that could be because I'm playing on PS4, but even if I put all the many very painful bugs and loading screens mid-dropkick aside, we've still got some very serious core problems to address. The good news is the whole game's gorgeous, even on last gen. From the first second we see the open world, the sun burning in the distance, and then again later when we're greeted with this more skyscraper-studded setting, Dying Light 2 sets a high bar for itself. In any open world game, if you show the player an amazing view, our first thought is, oh shit, can I go there? If a game delivers on this promise, it can be an enjoyable, fulfilling experience, even if getting there is a little more difficult or more time consuming than we first expect. If you don't deliver on that promise, your open world feels small, limiting, and kinda sad. Fortunately for all of us, this game does deliver hard as hell, at least in this regard. There are so many buildings with explorable interiors, interesting environmental storytelling, and eventually ways to get just about anywhere. I'd go as far as to say the city is going to go down as one of the most iconic open worlds of its time. Eventually. It doesn't feel as alive as something like Horizon or as dead as FF15. I'd say it's somewhere towards the former though. As much as I love the look of the foliage reclaiming everything and the rooftops covered in trees, I also have to acknowledge how unrealistic this is. Especially for just 15 years of growth. There are once again paths built everywhere to be parkoured upon, but these make more diegetic, believable sense than ever before. After 15 years following the blueprint laid by Brecken, and I would like to think to some extent by Kyle Crane, it makes perfect sense the survivors would erect structures to make navigating the world easier by foot. I've seen the word floaty being used, and that couldn't be more accurate. Apparently this was done to be closer to realism, and the gravity of Dying Light 1 only looked so good because it was exaggerated. That seems like bullshit to me. Aiden can jump superhumanly far before you ever get a single inhibitor upgrade. I like how Spike comments on it, it's fun to be this strong. But we cannot pretend this is more realistic. That is a Spider-Man jump if I've ever seen one. After a while I got used to this floatiness and came to love the super jumps. Despite the devs' insistence, it is much more of a video game and far less immersive, but I think I wound up enjoying movement more in this game than I did in the first. Part of that is the ingenious level design, how much I love the view when I finally get to the top of a building, but I think everything else just also feels smoother. Flows together more seamlessly. I went into this thinking I would hate the new parkour. The first time I jumped, I think I said, "Oh no," out loud, but it's fine. More than fine, it's downright fun. Likewise, after a lot of trial and error, I was able to get used to how insanely fast we can dodge. I'm not mad at that anymore. I even love the new grappling hook, for what it is. Kind of. It should get unlocked in the beginning of the game and not at the end, but it is cool as hell. I greatly appreciate how creatively the game lets you use it and how many surfaces it can stick to. But the way it functions overall is pretty disappointing. If I could swing myself more easily to gain momentum once it's attached, or if I could climb up the rope, I'd be a lot happier. But as it stands now, wasn't really all that useful to me. Maybe this was nerfed down to narrow your focus to the paraglider parkour combo. Maybe it was to be more realistic, even though nothing else in the game is. I have no clue. But I know if I hadn't played the first game with its grappling ODM gear glory, I wouldn't be complaining. I would just be impressed. This is still awesome, the idea behind it, how free I am to use it, but I was just Batman like one game ago, you can't make me go back to real life. Oh wait, none of this is real life, that zombie has a health bar. That's right. Please excuse me while I fucking fly off this building. By the way, this paraglider rules. Or having a paraglider in a game like this with a massive, amazing, interconnected open world rules. I guess this one could be better. But still, adds a lot of fun when my stamina bar can take it. And it never can. Rather than being tied to our movement stat, now stamina is dependent on how many of a particular collectible called an inhibitor we've found. I get that it's enormous incentive to explore and delve into dark zones, but I'd infinitely rather just be able to do more the more I play, as is the case with the combat stat, and weapons, and seemingly everything else. Except health, stamina, and how long you can survive indoors. Speaking of which, you can now die from being inside of a building for too long, even during the day. Aiden, along with everyone in this world, is already infected. You can monitor the progress of an infection with a biomarker. This is what tells you how long you have left in the darkness before you turn and get a game over screen. Most valuable objects are in dark zones. You need the inhibitors within them to increase how long you can stay alive away from UV lights, both at night and in the aforementioned zones. And in my opinion, just my opinion, torch down, this was an awful way to go. I like the added survival mechanic, how we stave off the infection with regular injections, fine. But now I can never just find a place to hide and wait out the night like I used to. Now I can never stray too far from a safe zone. Now I can't explore the inside of a building during the day unless I want to sneak past 50 sleepy zombies to do it. That is the biggest loss for me of the sequel. the day-night cycle. Still stunning to look at. Every single sunrise and sunset, I was floored. But it feels like they ruined it. Now, in addition to dying for existing at night, we have a Grand Theft Auto chase meter, complete with zombies popping out of preset spawn points everywhere, which looks cool, but I hate the idea behind it. That nothing exists in this world to come get you, it just spawns wherever you are. We don't even see volatiles till I think the 3rd chase level, and they're still mighty scary, just less so now, in terms of appearance and function. In Dying Light 1, knowing they were out there at all times made going out at night feel dangerous, but also exciting. I knew I was risking very swift death and tons of volatiles all over me, but I made that choice because it was more fun that way. I still had some great, fun, and horrific moments with the new armored Titan-looking big boys, like this one time I got trapped under a table for around 4 minutes. I think he's gone now. Nope. That time I had like 6 of them chase me down a hallway and I almost got boned. That was neat. And I think that's about it, just those 2 incidents. No montage this time. Human enemies mostly stick to melee weapons, as understandably guns are extremely rare in this world. Most people you see have a bow or a makeshift machete that's going to disappear when they die. And thank God I can still dropkick people, and for the fact they often die when I do. I don't love that I can throw a knife into a dude's eyeball and he just keeps coming. That's sort of bananas. These are just straight up kunai I'm chucking, by the way. And I am become Naruto once again. We finally got that block I always wanted, some new special attack options in the skill tree, and some fun parkour-based maneuvers you can bust out once in a great while. Enemies might be more or less competent than they were in the first game, but I have no idea, because most of the time, whenever I entered combat, my game froze, dropped to around 1 FPS, perhaps 2 if I'm being generous, or lagged so hard I was able to kill my opponent unchallenged. This led to many unjust decapitations. We're cutting everybody's head off in this game for some reason. I have no explanation for it. Opponents often teleported around me mid-swing. I really did have a couple loading screens mid-dropkick, that wasn't a joke, and a few full-on crashes. Some of the talk surrounding the game is that combat is really fun and feels great, and it's super addictive. I feel that way about the movement, sure, but combat for me was okay at its best and non-functional at its worst. On PS4, this was really rough. Or at least my game was. If you didn't run into more bugs than Weevil has in his entire Yu-Gi-Oh deck, please let me know in the comments. Combat being a lag machine didn't break my game, and I can forgive a few crashes. I still loved Cyberpunk after all. The worst offense, and what might have at least partially, sorta, kinda ruined Dying Light 2 for me, was this bug where people would go to speak and nothing would come out. This also removed a few layers of sound effects, Aiden's responses, and the animations of the NPC talking. If it happened once or twice, whatever, but this was close to half of the cutscenes in the entire game, and almost all the really important ones. Anytime a character died, a side quest line I cared about concluded, or Rosario Dawson said something apparently significant, I missed it. I'm not sure if this is all because I'm on the PS4 version of the game, or if all of them are this bad. Maybe nobody else had these issues, but I'm gonna go ahead and doubt it. I'm positive that Dying Light 2 would be a much better experience to me if I didn't have all these massive problems, but it still wouldn't be perfect. Even without teleporting zombies, textures popping in way too late, or all these horrifying gray faces staring at me blankly, the story is still complete garbage. Most every voice actor does an incredible job of selling atrocious dialogue. Lawan, played by Rosario Dawson, and the lead, Jonah Scott, who plays Aiden Caldwell, stood out in particular. I still liked other characters like Hakon and Frank, but these two seem to really elevate their terrible lines into almost a thing a person would say territory. Sometimes. Other characters, like Waltz for example, could simply not exist, and the entire story would only benefit from it. Some spoilers coming, sorry. He's just a cartoonish villain who's somehow even less interesting than Rice was. He claims compassion is his reasoning behind torture killing people. He never explains his motivation for doing anything. Even at the end of the game, I never understood why he was doing what he was doing. There's a big twist that I guess is supposed to help him make more sense, but it in no way does. It was all just so evil and screwed up with absolutely zero redeeming qualities or rational explanations. I mostly liked the choice system that led us here. I loved this world and sorta liked some of the characters we met along the way. I was happy with the ending I got, all things considered, but it left me feeling completely empty. It went on far too long for me to still have such a strong sense of, wait, that's it? Again, I'm glad a happy ending for the people I cared about was possible. I'm still going to play any future DLC or holiday events. I still love so much about this game, but holy shit was the whole thing also immensely disappointing. Because of the bugs, because of the terrible story, and because Waltz shouldn't have been in any of it. This was a game of incredible soaring highs and pitiful aggravating lows, of perfect chase sequences that should have featured a Night Hunter or a Volatile instead of a terrible character, astonishing environments, and very fun gameplay. It has a huge, connected, impressive open world, more bugs than any flying Pokemon could ever defeat, and a lot of heart. I still believe in this series. I don't love the more RPG-like elements, and I intend to go back into a whole immersion mode run in the future, no health bars and such. Also on a next-gen console once they've patched the living shit out of it. Did I mention it only rained twice in like my entire 60-something hours or whatever I put in? Twice. Like really close together, and the one time I was indoors. Didn't stop the rain though. I love raining games, just not indoors. I can't say I entirely loved my time with the game, but I walked away feeling mostly positive, and I did love the world it takes place in. I have very high hopes for my next playthrough, like a year from now, and I still recommend giving it a try in spite of everything. Just maybe wait a little bit and let him exterminate some of those bugs. Oh shoot, that's rough. I'm sure it'll be over soon. It can't, Cool.